Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. For today's video, I'm going to discuss about conic sections, hyperbola. Our objectives for this discussion is to determine the properties of hyperbola whose center is at the origin and determine the properties of hyperbola whose center is at HK. A hyperbola is a conic section formed by intersecting a right circular cone with a plane at an angle such that both halves of the cone are intersected. This intersection produces two separate and bounded curves that are mirror images of each other. Also, a hyperbola is a set of all points in a plane such that the difference of the distances of each point of the set from the fixed points foci in the plane is constant. Transverse axis is a distance from vertex to vertex whose endpoints are v equals a0 and v prime equals negative a0 for hyperbola whose center is at the origin. Conjugate axis is perpendicular to transverse axis whose endpoints are b equals 0b and b prime equals 0 negative b. For hyperbola whose center is at the origin, center intersection of the axis. And latus rectum is a chord through the focus perpendicular to transverse axis. 2a is the length of the transverse axis, 2b is the length of the conjugate axis, 2c is the distance between the foci where c squared equals a squared plus b squared. A is the distance from the center of the hyperbola to the vertex, b is the distance from the center to the end of the conjugate axis, and c is the distance from the center to the focus. Properties of hyperbola whose center is at the origin. The first equation is x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. The transverse axis is horizontally oriented. The coordinates of the foci are positive negative c 0. The coordinates of the vertices are positive negative a 0. The coordinates of the co-vertices are 0 positive negative b. And the asymptotes and the equation of the asymptotes are y equals positive negative b over ax. And this is an example of the graph of the equation x squared over a squared minus y squared over b squared equals 1. The second equation is y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equals 1. The transverse axis is vertically oriented. The coordinates of the foci are 0 positive negative z. The coordinates of the vertices are 0 positive negative a. The coordinates of the co-vertices are positive negative b0. And the equations of the asymptotes are y equals positive negative a over bx. And this is an example of the graph of the equation y squared over a squared minus x squared over b squared equals 1. Properties of hyperbola whose center is at HK. The first equation is the quantity of x minus h raised to the power of 2 over a squared minus the quantity of y minus k raised to the power of 2 over b squared equals 1. The transverse axis is horizontally oriented. The coordinates of the foci are h positive negative c k. The coordinates of the vertices are h positive negative a k. The coordinates of the co-vertices are h k positive negative b. And the equation of the asymptotes are y minus k equals positive negative b over a times the quantity of x minus h. And this is an example of the graph of the equation. And the second equation is the quantity of y minus k raised to the power of 2 over a squared minus the quantity of x minus h raised to the power of 2 over b squared equals 1. The transverse axis is vertically oriented. The coordinates of the foci are h k positive negative c. The coordinates of the vertices are h, k positive negative a. The coordinates of the co-vertices are h, positive negative b, k. And the equation of the asymptotes are y minus k equals positive negative a over b times the quantity of x minus h. And this is an example of the graph of the equation. Let's have an example. Number 1, given the equation x squared over 4 minus y squared over 9 equals 1, find the center, major axis, vertices, and points of conjugate axis, foci, equation of asymptotes, and graph of the equation. In this equation, the center is at the origin. Major axis is parallel to x-axis. Next is the vertices. A squared equals 4. Square root of 4 equals 2, so the vertices are negative 2, 0, and 2, 0. Next is the endpoints of conjugate axis. The coordinate of the co-vertices are positive negative b0, so it equals to positive negative 3, 0. Next is the foci. Let's find first the value of c. So c squared equals a squared plus b squared. Substitute the value of a squared and b squared. So c squared equals 4 plus 9 equals square root of 13. So the foci are negative square root of 13, 0, and square root of 13, 0. Next is the equation of asymptotes. Y equals positive negative b over a x. Substitute the value of b and a. So y equals positive negative 3 over 2x. And just simply use the GeoGebra graphing calculator to input the equation and the following values of its properties. Exercise. Find the center, major axis, vertices, and points of conjugate axis, foci, equation of asymptotes, and the graph of the equation. Number 1, the quantity of y minus 3 raised to the power of 2 over 4 minus the quantity of x minus 2 raised to the power of 2 over 9 equals 1. And number 2, 9x squared minus 25y squared equals 225. If you have any questions, clarification, and suggestions, kindly comment it down below.